Hype is generally bullshit. People all over the internet were singing the praises of Deep Breath, even though in my opinion, the correct opinion, Deep Breath was deeply disappointing. The week after, the internet was falling over itself to say how brilliant Into the Dalek was, even though I thought it was a journey into the concept of mediocrity. Even last week, with everyone saying that Doctor Who was getting good again, even though Robots of Sherwood was very much Robots of average. That last one wasn't quite as clever, but my point still stands. I still had low expectations when these same people were insisting that this was a great episode. But I have great news. No longer do I have to say things like this episode was comparatively quite good like last week, because this episode is actually good overall, not just when compared to the Series 8 toilet. It starts off interesting, becomes tense, then becomes dull and confusing, and finally finishes off quite well. Moffat seems very fond of the semi-believable psychological monsters. Monsters like the angels that only move when no one's looking, and the silence that you forget about when you look away. They're very successful and interesting, and very creepy, because they try to make them seem believable. I was 12 years old when I saw Blink, and it made me scared of stone statues. So in the cliched monster under the bed story, what memorable villain has he created? Well, just a quick spoiler alert, although why you're watching this before the actual episode is beyond me, and forces me to conclude that you are an idiot. Anyway, the monster. Fuck all. Nothing. I'm being a bit of a facetious arsehole, more so than usual, because it would have ruined the episode a little bit if it had been any kind of monster. Besides, the BBC have to be careful nowadays about things hiding under children's beds, as some of them have been in trouble for that recently. It would have been a good satire if the monster had looked a little bit like an old kids' TV presenter. Anyway, this episode has another one of those god-awful scenes between Clara and the man who keeps banging his head. Except something seems a little different here. It wasn't all god-awful. The scenes in the restaurant were awkward, but not that bad, nowhere near as bad as that school scene a couple of episodes ago. But I can't give any credit to the idea of getting that other bloke, the time-travelling one. That entire subplot was ridiculous. It had some sort of subtle message that was about as subtle as Vesuvius. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it because the episode itself does that well enough without me. But despite this large gaping anus of a subplot, the whole episode was actually worth watching, with yet more good acting performances, but this time coupled with an interesting narrative and settings. If the series keeps improving at this rate, by the end of the series it will nearly be as good as any episode from the first two series. Thanks for listening. Here's the email address if you have any show ideas.